Zamboni, 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 Zamboni.
Once upon a time, in a country not unlike your own, Zambonis and men lived in peace. However, darkness brewed beneath this shallow veneer of cordiality. A political faction with an irrational hatred of the Zambonis sprang forth fully formed from the hardened skulls of wicked men. Scholars of either tribe could neither predict nor explain the rise of this faction, but the day came when this odious group took the highest power in the land, and the Zambonis found themselves exiled under threat of death. Pooling what supplies they could carry, the Zambonis purchased a single ship from a sympathetic merchant. 16 of the wisest Zambonis would travel to their ancestral homeland, an unspoiled utopia that no living Zamboni had ever seen with his own eyes. There, the Zambonis would rebuild their civilization, free from the ire of man. Against all odds, the Zambonis survived the voyage across the sea. Famished and exhausted, the Zambonis were overjoyed to leave their wooden cocoon. However, they could not rest their weary bodies on this newfound land, for Zambonis were not made to live in the mountains. Their utopia must lie further inland. The Zambonis come across a curious sight. Two bridges span an impressive chasm, each bridge guarded by a massive stone face. One speaks.
Zambonis! I haven't seen the likes of you for centuries.
The other responds.
Choo! Damn Zambonis. Something about y'all makes me wanna... Choo! As well, brother.
One Zamboni steps forward and says, "We only seek passage across your bridges. Could you hold still your sniffles while we cross? I fear these old planks may not survive the violence of your winds." The second face replies,
"I cannot help my nature any more than you could have been born a man of flesh or stone."
His brother adds,
"It's not all Zambonis, mind. Some of you lot I find quite tolerable. Choose wisely. Even I can't predict who can pass safely over my bridge."
The first Zamboni crosses without incident. The second Zamboni joins her relieved comrade.
Choo!
The third Zamboni finds his passage cut short by a mighty exhalation that sends him flying to the rocky depths below. It is not likely any Zamboni could survive such a fall. At this point, the Zambonis are stunned. They intellectually knew the risks involved in their voyage, but nothing could prepare them for the emotional impact of seeing a friend die before their eyes so soon after their landfall. How absurd, how utterly, utterly absurd that fate has contrived to strip them of first their freedoms and now their lives. Back home, their mortality never rested on a coin flip. The survivors steel themselves, for they know that this gauntlet is the only way forward, and this death is merely the first of many. The fourth Zamboni crosses, an expression of terror stuck on his face. He barely realizes when he reaches the other side. The fifth Zamboni casts a look of scorn towards the detestable faces as she passes overhead. The faces fail to meet her gaze. The sixth Zamboni nearly jumps off the bridge himself when the stone face begins to contort. It is a mercy he did not.
Ho, ho, false alarm.
Upon seeing the face begin his deadly sneeze, the seventh Zamboni tries to flee.
Chew!
His efforts prove fruitless as he plummets to his death. One Zamboni speaks out. Your hateful air has slain 2 of the gentlest souls ever to walk this earth. Cease your unkind breath, lest you harm a 3rd, the first face replies.
You are but visitors in our realm.
The second adds.
I don't see why we have to change our behavior when it's your presence that irritates our lungs. Just don't cross my bridge if you think I'll sneeze. It's as simple as that.
The 8th Zamboni crosses with a confidence that proves to be well placed.
See? Simple.
The 9th Zamboni matches his friend's swagger,
Chew!
but fails to match his results.
I guess it's not so simple after all.
One Zamboni cries out, How can you be so cavalier about murdering a fellow thinking creature?
Little Zamboni, from this cliff I have seen more thinking creatures live and die than you will ever know in your brief life.
You don't even care, do you?
Your quest means little to me or my brother. We will shed no tears when you have gone. Chew!
A mighty sneeze shakes the bridge underneath the 10th Zamboni's feet, sending her to an untimely death. Her former lover cries, Just tell us, O great mountain gods, what you wish of us. Why did you kill her and not me? Why did you deem me worthy of survival? Is it my appearance, my courage, my speed?
Your comrades died? You didn't. It wouldn't be wise to read any intent into these occurrences. Chew!
The next Zamboni shares the fate of the 2 prior participants in this mad game. The surviving Zambonis are silent. It is clear that these stone gods are incapable of listening to reason. The 12th Zamboni says a small prayer before crossing. She makes it across. The 13th glides across the bridge in silence, as does the 14th. And the 15th. And finally, the 16th joins the others on the far end of the cliff. In all, the stone faces slew 5 Zambonis. The 11 survivors follow the path onward. They say nothing to each other on this leg of the voyage, each dealing with this grief in his or her own secret internal way. Some are lost in thought. Some try their hardest to remember the fallen, to commit their faces, names, and deeds to memory. Some are already feeling those memories fade. Some try to block out their own thoughts and concentrate entirely on the task of moving forward. Some of them are even successful. In a clearing, the Zambonis stumble upon a most unusual scene. A hirsute troll lies convulsing on the ground, beating his breast and airing his lamentation to the clouds.
Pizza! Won't somebody make me a pizza?
Next to the troll rests an ancient machine. The fated pictograms on this mammoth piece of technology implies that it was once used to manufacture and vend this troll's food of choice. The youngest of Zambonis approaches this miserable creature. I feel your pain, for we too are low on rations. It has been many moons since we have enjoyed a prepared meal. The troll shows no sign of understanding.
Pizza! I need pizza!
The owner of this machine still works. If so, we would be happy to share its blessing with you, weary traveler.
Make me some pizza!
The Zambonis share a glance. Perhaps they would find food elsewhere. They attempt to leave, but the malnourished troll strikes with an unexpected scent and speed, killing the young Zamboni in an instant.
I want pizza!
There is desperation in his sunken eyes. The troll stands in the only road forward. He demands immediate attention. His actions cannot be ignored. So the survivors retreat to form a plan. 2 camps emerge. Some Zambonis wish to appease the troll, for his request seems simple enough. The others wish to overwhelm the troll with superior numbers, slaying him before he has a chance to strike again. They hold a vote. The appeasers win. The Zambonis are in luck. The first appeaser brings this greasy marvel to the troll. One would expect the troll to be overjoyed at finally seeing the object of his desire made both tangible and edible before his eyes. There is nothing but anger in his face.
I don't like some of these toppings.
The picky eater suddenly attacks his unlikely maitre d', and it is not long before two bodies hit the ground, one covered in tomato sauce, the other in blood. And the appeaser quickly quells the discontent in his ranks and prepares to honor the troll's new request. The second appeaser nervously brings his offering to the troll. The hairy beast takes one whiff, yells,
I don't like these toppings.
and increases the death toll to 8. One Zamboni cries, Don't you see? You cannot satisfy this stubborn creature. How can we sit idly by while he slays our friends over his absurd predilections? But her words remain in vain as an appeaser responds. I can tell that this troll is a lost soul, one who defines himself by what he dislikes but unable to articulate his heart's desires. Once we discover what he needs, I am sure he will prove a valuable ally. The third appeaser keeps fast to his convictions and brings the latest soggy concoction to his pugnacious patron. Still, the troll remains unsatisfied, screaming,
More toppings!
Yet again the troll responds with violence to the mere presence of an innocuous pizza decorated to another's liking. At this, the remaining Zambonis have simultaneously reached their individual breaking points and swarm the troll with a justified rage. The Zambonis are not creatures used to fighting. Their moves are clumsy, their blows are weak. Still, they outnumber the troll, and so, when the battle ends, the 7 surviving Zambonis emerge victorious. The troll is dead, but at a heavy cost. After burying their dead, the survivors feast that night on a dish made from the flesh and bones of their fallen enemy. It is the sausage pizza, and in that moment, it is the most delicious thing the Zambonis have ever tasted. Morning arrives with a whimper as the 7 remaining Zambonis come across a fork in the road. 2 paths diverge in this barren land, neither one betraying what dreams or nightmares await at their termini. Still, a choice must be made. At the end of the road, the Zambonis encounter a curious contraption. A dull machine idly blows bubbles over another treacherous chasm. The Zambonis are momentarily taken back to their carefree childhoods, ones often spent giddily blowing bubbles in the grassy meadows of the land they once called home. But the reality of this machine stands in opposition to this idealized image, manufacturing bubbles with such stark efficiency as to give no hint of joy or wonder. Arrows adorned with caricatures of Zamboni phrenology float along the bubble's paths. The implication is clear. This odd construct was designed to process and sort Zambonis by crude analysis of their physical features. Nearby glyphs inform the Zambonis that riding a bubble would allow them to cross safely. The Zambonis are hesitant, for who can trust a conveyance that gives such weight to one's appearance? But it seems to be the only way forward. Who will be the first to give the device a try? Poor Zamboni. Poor, hopeful Zamboni. The system was designed for Zambonis to use, but not for their benefit. The moment freedom is in reach, this cruel machine changes its criteria, leaving its captive adrift, stranded but always in motion, perpetually allowing for a sliver of hope. A hope rooted in the assumption that movement implies progress and that the Zamboni needs only wait for the system to let him pass. It never will. The system ensnares Zamboni, shunting them from checkpoint to capricious checkpoint until, finally, the Zamboni either runs out of air or the waning surface tension of the bubble causes it to burst. The trapped Zamboni cries for the others to join him, for it will surely not be long now before he makes landfall. But his friends have no way to reach him without entering the system themselves. There's nothing they can do for him now. Without a word, the surviving 6 Zambonis return to the fork and take the other path, leaving their comrade to his inevitable death. They avoid each other's gaze, for they know they alone remain, not by bravery, not by wisdom or skill, but by chance. It could have been any one of them in that bubble. 10 Zambonis gone, young and old, learned and clever, friends and lovers, trusting and cautious, all indiscriminately whittled down by this broken place, a land indifferent to the guilt and despair felt by those left behind. The Zambonis are now greeted by an odd assortment of weaponry, all pointed at yet another cliff. They take a closer look at the quandary before them. 3 catapults are aimed at the otherwise unreachable path above. A cannon points at the cliffside, which itself is dotted with an array of runes. Some portend death, while others hint at freedom. A nearby device seems to control the cannon's aim. Another convoluted puzzle. The Zambonis are so tired. Had they still the capacity to hope, they would have hoped this trial would be their last. Perhaps it will be. Perhaps not. 3 somber Zambonis file into the machine, each one taking a catapult. Their thoughts have succumbed to the entropic whims of this world, and so they await the shot that will determine their future. The cannon fires upon a tile marked with a single skull. Before the Zambonis have a chance to react, a single catapult misfires, sending its occupant to her death. Another Zamboni quickly fills her space. The cannon hits a blank tile, and nothing happens. The travelers' faces remain hollow. They are not relieved at this momentary reprieve, for they know their final judgment will come soon enough. Triple skulls. All 3 catapults send their precious cargo down to the murky depths of oblivion. The 2 remaining Zambonis dutifully take their places. One says, "If this is the end, I am glad you are by my side." But her companion remains silent, inconsolable. One skull. The empty catapult triggers, failing in its malicious intent. Are the Zambonis aware how close they came to death? Do they even care? Miraculously, the last 2 Zambonis find themselves flung to the top of the cliff. They roll onward, desperate to leave this horrible place. How much more trauma must they endure? When will they have time to process and grieve? A few miles down the path, the Zambonis find an ancient feathered sign. It reads, Zamboniville. At long last they are nearly to their goal. What homeland awaits at the end of this path? Their respective relatives had often spoke of a utopia, but were rather vague on the specifics. No matter. If such a utopia does not exist, then they would build one of their own sweat and blood. Beyond the hill, an incredible sight shocks the pair from their miserable stupor. A town, a village, a city sprawls before their eyes. It is as if they had never left home. They race down the hill in awe, smiling as if for the first time. Their smiles quickly fade as they see who inhabits the city. You see for generations now, Zamboniville was a city of men. Surviving here are the descendants of the men who had forced the ancient Zambonis to flee this place, a homeland that never truly existed except in myth and song. Men, the same men who built the borders and machinery designed long ago to destroy and demoralize the object of their ire, Zambonis. Erstwhile cohabitants still blamed for the ills of man even in this long, long absence. A hatred fostered over many centuries reignites as the two Zambonis find themselves at gunpoint. Neither man nor God intervenes on their behalf. 2 shots ring out. 2 Zambonis draw their last breaths.
Zamboni, 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 Zamboni.
I see you wish to start anew. Well, I'm not going to stop you, but I will ask you to reconsider. If you feel unhappy with the way things transpired, please, own those feelings. Do not dwell on what ifs and if onlys, for no one can change the past. If you feel angry, let that anger inform your future actions. But for now, accept that what happened, happened, and that we can only move forward from this fixed point in time.
Zamboni, 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 Zamboni.